My name is Jessica Miller. I am 25 years old. And this happened to me last winter in Los Angeles. I used to work late shifts at a small marketing agency. And because of that, I relied on ride-sharing apps almost every night. It felt normal, safe, something millions of people use daily without thinking twice. That night started like any other. I left the office a little after 11:30 p.m. The streets were still busy, but quieter than usual. I opened the Uber app, requested a ride, and within a minute a driver accepted. His name showed as Daniel. Rating was high. Car matched the description. Everything looked completely normal. When the car arrived, I checked the license plate. It matched. I got in the backseat. Said hello. He nodded, but didn't say much. Which wasn't unusual. Some drivers prefer to stay quiet. At first, everything felt routine. The car smelled faintly of air freshener. Low music playing, city lights passing by the window. I checked the route on my phone. It showed about 20 minutes to reach my apartment. About 5 minutes into the ride, I noticed something small. The driver missed a turn. It wasn't a big deal. GPS reroutes happen all the time. I assumed he would correct it. But instead of turning around or following the new route, he kept driving straight. I looked back at my phone. The app had already recalculated, but now the route looked slightly longer. I leaned forward a little and said, "Hey, I think the turn was back there." He didn't answer immediately. Then after a few seconds he said quietly, "This way is faster." His voice was calm, almost flat, not aggressive, but something about the delay made me uncomfortable. I sat back, trying to relax, telling myself drivers know local shortcuts better than GPS sometimes. But then I noticed something else. The road we were on was getting darker. Street lights became less frequent. Buildings turned into long stretches of empty lots and warehouses. The kind of industrial area that feels abandoned at night. I checked my phone again. The app still showed the route. But the blue line didn't match the road we were actually on. My chest tightened a little. I refreshed the app, thinking maybe it was a GPS lag. Same result. We were not following the mapped route. I felt that first real wave of unease. The kind that starts in your stomach and slowly spreads. I tried to stay calm. I said, "Can you please follow the app route?" This time he didn't respond at all. No acknowledgement. No change in direction, just silence. The music in the car stopped. I hadn't noticed what had happened. But suddenly, the car felt too quiet. I picked up my phone and checked my signal. No service. That was unusual. Parts of the city have weak signal, but not complete loss. I turned airplane mode on and off. Nothing changed. No bars. At that point, my breathing started getting heavier. I reached for the door handle, just to reassure myself. It didn't open. I pulled it again, harder, locked. I looked at the window controls, pressed them, nothing. The driver finally spoke. Child lock. His voice was calm, almost casual. A cold feeling ran through my body. I leaned forward, trying to keep my voice steady. "Can you unlock it, please?" He didn't answer. Instead, he adjusted the rearview mirror slightly, and for the first time I saw his eyes clearly. He was watching me, not just glancing, but staring through the mirror. My heart started pounding so hard it hurt. Every instinct was telling me something was very wrong. I grabbed my phone and pretended to call someone, even though there was no signal. I said loudly, "Hey, I'm on my way." "Yeah, I'll be there in 10 minutes. No reaction. The car slowed slightly as we entered an even darker stretch of road. Number buildings, no lights, just empty asphalt and shadows. I felt panic rising in my chest, real panic. The kind where your body starts preparing to run, even though you have nowhere to go. I looked around quickly, trying to think. Then I remembered something I had read before. Some drivers use child lock for safety, but they are supposed to unlock doors if a passenger asks. Refusing is a serious violation. I leaned forward again, louder this time. "Stop the car now." He didn't stop. Instead, he said something that made everything worse. "You shouldn't be out this late." My hands started shaking. I moved closer to the door, looking for anything I could use, anything to break the window if needed. Then suddenly, the car slowed down. He pulled over to the side of the road. My heart jumped. relief and fear mixing together. Before I could say anything, he reached down and unlocked the doors. "Get out," he said. No anger, no emotion. Just flat. I didn't hesitate. I opened the door and stepped out immediately. The moment my feet touched the ground, I moved away from the car as fast as I could. He didn't wait. The car drove off within seconds. Disappearing into the darkness, I stood there alone on an empty road. My breathing out of control, hands still shaking. Trying to process what just happened, after a minute I managed to walk toward a distant light I could barely see. Eventually, I found a gas station and called for help. Later, I reported everything through the Uber support system and to local authorities. They told me something that still stays with me. Sometimes drivers deviate from routes for harmless reasons. But in rare cases, route deviation, silence, and control over the vehicle environment can indicate something much more dangerous. They couldn't confirm what his intention was. And that uncertainty is what still scares me the most. Because even now, every time I sit in the back seat of a ride at night, and the driver misses a turn, my heart starts racing again. And I can't stop thinking, what if next time he doesn't stop the car at all? My name is Marcus Reed. I am 31 years old, and I used to drive nights for Uber in Houston, mostly because the pay was better after midnight. Fewer cars, longer rides, less traffic. It felt easier in a way. At least that is what I thought before that night. Driving at night teaches you patterns. You start to notice how people behave, how drunk passengers act, how quiet ones sit, how some talk too much, how some fall asleep, and over time you build instincts about who is safe and who might cause trouble. That night started slow. A few short rides downtown, nothing unusual. Then around 2:15 a.m., I got a ride request from an area near the edge of the city. Not exactly rural, but far enough that streetlights were spaced out and houses were more spread apart. Pickup location was a small bus stop near a closed grocery store. When I arrived, the street was almost empty. Just one flickering light above the bus shelter, and one passenger standing completely still. A man, tall, wearing a dark jacket, hands at his sides. Not looking at his phone, not pacing. Just standing there, like he had been waiting for a long time. That alone felt a little off. Because most riders track the car on their phone and step forward when you arrive. But I told myself not to overthink it. He opened the back door slowly and got in. No greeting, no confirmation, just silence. I said, "Marcus." "For Kevin." After a few seconds, he said, "Yes." His voice was low, almost tired. I started the trip. Destination showed about 30 minutes away, heading back toward a more populated part of the city. At first, everything was quiet, which is normal for late-night rides. But after a few minutes, I noticed something in the rearview mirror. He was looking straight at me, not casually, not occasionally. Constantly, I adjusted the mirror slightly, pretending I needed a better angle, but really, I was trying to avoid eye contact. Most passengers eventually look away. He didn't. 10 minutes passed like that. Silent car, dark roads, and his eyes fixed on me in the mirror. Then he spoke. "You ever drive this late often?" I said, "Yeah, most nights." He paused, then said, "You see a lot of things." Something about the way he said it made my chest tighten a little. Not a question, more like a statement. I kept my voice normal, said, "Just normal stuff. People going home." He didn't respond. Another few minutes passed, then I noticed the route. We were approaching the destination area, but instead of a house or apartment, the drop-off pin was placed near an empty intersection. No building, no visible destination, just a street corner surrounded by closed warehouses. That happens sometimes. People put the wrong pin or get dropped nearby. But something about it added to the tension building in the car. Then he said quietly, "You can stop a little earlier." I asked. "Right here," he said. "Not yet." His tone changed slightly, more controlled, more firm. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. I kept driving. We passed the pinned location. The app recalculated automatically. New route appeared, longer, deeper into a darker part of the area. At that moment, I felt something shift inside me. Because drivers are trained to follow the app route, unless the passenger updates it. Continuing past the destination without clear reason is not normal, I said, trying to sound casual. The drop-off was back there. He leaned forward slightly, close enough that I could feel his presence behind me. Keep driving. My heartbeat sped up. This was no longer just uncomfortable. This felt wrong, very wrong. I considered ending the trip on the app, but that can escalate situations, especially if the passenger reacts badly. So I kept driving, but started scanning the road ahead, looking for anything: open gas stations, police cars, any place with people. The streets were empty, completely empty. Then I noticed something else, his reflection in the mirror. At first it looked normal, but then I realized he wasn't blinking, not once. Just staring, unmoving. My throat went dry. I forced myself to focus on the road. Then suddenly he spoke again. You ever feel like someone is behind you even when no one is there? His voice was closer now, too close. I glanced quickly at the mirror. He had leaned forward even more, his face partially in shadow, eyes still locked on me. Every instinct in my body was telling me to get out of that situation immediately. But I was in a moving car, on an empty road, with him right behind me. Then I saw something ahead. A gas station, lights on, open relief hit me instantly. I slowed down and turned into it, without asking. The moment the car stopped, I said, I need to check something real quick. I opened my door and stepped out. I didn't run. I walked fast toward the store entrance. Trying not to show panic, I looked back once. He was still sitting in the car, perfectly still, watching me, through the windshield. I went inside and told the clerk quietly that I felt unsafe. He nodded and told me to stay inside. When I looked outside again a minute later, the car was empty, the back door slightly open. He was gone. No one walking away. No figure in the distance. Nothing. Just an empty parking lot. I checked the app. The ride was still active. Passengers still listed. No cancellation, no update. Later, when I reported the incident to Uber support, they reviewed the trip data. They confirmed something strange. The passenger account had been newly created. No history, no previous rides. And after that trip, it was never used again. No further activity. No trace. I kept driving for a few more weeks after that, but something changed. Because every time I looked in the rearview mirror at night, I remembered the way he stared, unblinking, silent. Like he wasn't just a passenger, but something that didn't belong in that car at all. And sometimes, when I drive alone late at night, I still catch myself checking the mirror for someone who might already be sitting there, without me ever seeing them get in. My name is Ethan Cole. I am 29 years old. And what happened to me took place in New York City. A place where you are never really alone, where there are always lights, always people, always movement. Which is exactly why what happened that night felt so impossible to explain. I was coming back from a late shift at a financial firm in Midtown. It was close to 1:40 a.m., cold. Quiet in that strange way the city gets when it is not asleep, but not fully awake either. I didn't feel like taking the subway. So I opened the Uber app and requested a ride home. Within seconds, a driver accepted. Name showed as Victor, rating 4.9. Car was a black sedan. Everything standard. Everything normal. The pickup point was right outside my building. The car arrived quickly. I checked the plate. Matched perfectly. I got in the back seat, greeted him. He gave a small nod. Not unfriendly, just quiet. I settled in. Put on my seatbelt, checked the route. About 25 minutes to my apartment in Queens. Simple, straightforward. For the first 10 minutes, nothing felt wrong. Traffic lights, passing cars, occasional pedestrians. The city behaving exactly the way it always does. Then I noticed something small. The app showed the ride progressing normally, but the map froze. The blue dot representing the car stopped moving. At first, I thought it was just a network delay. Happens sometimes in dense areas. I refreshed it, still frozen. But outside the window, The car was clearly moving. I leaned forward slightly and checked the driver's phone mounted on the dashboard. His map was moving perfectly fine, so I assumed it was just my phone glitching. I locked the screen and leaned back. A few minutes later, I unlocked it again. The app now showed the trip almost halfway complete, but the streets outside didn't match that location at all. We were in a much quieter area than we should have been at that point. Fewer lights, fewer cars, more closed buildings. My chest tightened slightly. I checked my signal. Full bars. So it wasn't a network issue. I zoomed into the map. The route line was there. But the car icon was not aligned with any road. It was slightly off, like it was moving through buildings. That was the first moment I felt something was wrong. I leaned forward and asked, "Hey, is your GPS working correctly?" He didn't answer. Not even a glance. Just kept driving, hands steady on the wheel. Eyes forward. I waited a few seconds. Then asked again. This time he spoke. "It's fine." His voice was low, almost mechanical. No emotion. I sat back, trying to stay calm, telling myself it was just a technical issue. Apps glitch, GPS drifts. It happens, but then something else happened. The app on my phone showed the trip as completed. A notification popped up. "Thanks for riding." My stomach dropped. I looked out the window. We were still moving at full speed. Through a street I did not recognize. I immediately looked at the driver. "Hey, the trip just ended. Why are we still driving?" No response, not even a slight reaction. I felt a surge of panic. I reached for the door handle. It opened unlocked, but we were moving too fast. I couldn't jump out. I looked at the speedometer. Over 50 miles per hour in a city street. That alone was not normal. I grabbed my phone again and tried to request another ride, just to see what would happen. The app showed me as already at my destination. My real location was not updating. It was like the system thought I was somewhere else entirely. I opened another map app. It took a few seconds to load, then it showed my location. But it kept jumping, shifting, like it couldn't lock on to where I actually was. That is when the fear became something physical. My hands started shaking. Breathing uneven, I said louder this time, "Stop the car, now." The driver's grip on the wheel tightened slightly, but he didn't slow down. Instead, he said something that made my chest feel tight. "You already got out." For a second, my brain couldn't process what he meant. "What?" he repeated. "You already got out?" Same tone, flat, calm, like stating a fact. I felt a cold wave run through my body. I looked at the rearview mirror, and for a moment, just a second, I thought I saw someone sitting beside me in the back seat, but when I turned my head, nothing was there. Empty seat? I blinked hard, trying to clear my vision. My mind racing. Was I panicking? Was I imagining things? Was this some kind of stress response? But then I noticed something else. The city outside the window. It didn't look right. The streets were too empty, too still, traffic lights changing, but no cars moving through them. Buildings dark, no people on sidewalks. That is not how New York looks. Not even at 2 a.m. I felt trapped, completely trapped, moving through a place that looked like the city, but felt wrong, like something slightly off. I reached forward suddenly and hit the hazard button, hoping to force some kind of reaction. The clicking sound filled the car. The driver's head turned slightly, just a few degrees, enough for me to see part of his face. And in that moment, something felt completely wrong. Not physically deformed, not obviously unnatural, but empty. Like there was no reaction behind his eyes. No awareness, just movement. I made a decision. I couldn't stay in the car. At the next turn, the vehicle slowed slightly. Not fully, but enough. I grabbed the handle and pushed the door open. The wind hit me instantly, cold and sharp. I didn't think. I jumped. I hit the ground hard, rolling across rough pavement, pain shooting through my shoulder and arms. For a few seconds everything blurred. Sound muffled, vision spinning, and I forced myself up, breathing heavily, heart racing. I looked back at the road. The car was gone. No headlights. No engine sound, nothing, just an empty street. I stumbled toward the nearest building and found a small convenience store that was still open. The clerk called an ambulance when he saw my condition. Later at the hospital, I checked my phone again. The trip history was there, but something was wrong. The route showed a straight line, not following any roads, starting from my office, ending at my apartment, as if the trip had happened normally. No deviation, no extra distance, no record of what actually happened. I reported everything through Uber support. They responded days later, saying the trip data showed no irregularities. Driver completed the ride. Passenger dropped off successfully. No issues detected, even now, months later. I still use rides sometimes, but every time I get in, I check the map, I check the doors, I watch the road. Because I learned something that night, sometimes it's not just about who is driving the car. Sometimes it's about where the car is actually taking you, and whether you're still in the same place you think you are, or if you already got out, without even knowing it.